everyone, welcome back to my channel. It's Miss Ming here. In today's video, I want to talk about my first trimester recap, all of my early pregnancy symptoms, my first trimester pregnancy symptoms, and my remedy over it. And this is my second viable pregnancy. I've been pregnant 4 times. I had 2 miscarriages, 1 live birth with my son, and now this is my second pregnancy. So I'm going to talk about how different my 2 pregnancies are in the first trimester, and also exciting news, we're going to reveal the gender of the baby in today's video. So if this is the first time you're on my channel, make sure you subscribe and ring the notification bell. And my name is Ming. I usually do a lot of lifestyle videos, food review videos, and a lot of the shop with me videos for Trader Joe's and Costco. And if you're returning viewers from my YouTube fam, I apologize for not uploading a lot. Usually upload 3 times a week. Recently I've been uploading like once every 10 days. I really apologize because I really haven't had the energy to upload film, and I've been just feeling so bad in my first trimester. So without further ado, let's get into today's video. So at the time of filming this video, I am actually 13 weeks and 5 days, and your first trimester is actually 13 weeks and 6 days. So tomorrow is the last day of my first trimester. I'm so excited for it to be over because this pregnancy has been so much more rough than my last pregnancy. Well, let's talk about my pregnancy symptoms starting from early on, from week number 3. I know by this time most people don't even know they're pregnant. I only know because this is my 4th pregnancy. After the miscarriages, after having a live birth, I just had a lot of experience, and my body just has a reaction to the pregnancy right away. It's probably like the day or 2 days after the implantation happened that I started to have symptoms. So at 3 weeks and a day, which is literally 8 weeks before missed period, I started to have this weird metallic taste. And this weird metallic taste in my mouth was manifesting in drinking coffee. So the first thing in the morning, I drank my coffee that Monday, and it just tasted sour, bitter, metallic. It tastes weird. So I switched to a different cup. It still tastes like that. The next day, it still tastes like that. I'm like, okay, let me take a pregnancy test. So I literally found out that I'm pregnant 7 days before missed period, which is actually earlier than the box says. But really, when you can find out about your pregnancy, when you can have a positive test, really depends on when you ovulate and when the baby implants. So I ovulated a little bit earlier that month because I was using an ovulation kit. So I knew exactly when I ovulated. Well, roughly within 24 hours of that day that I ovulated. And I had a implantation cramps. So I kind of knew like what days that like the baby implanted. Knowing that the implantation is a process, it's not like implant. It's like it takes several hours for the actual cells burrowing into your uterus, and there's some people, they do experience a little bit cramps, which is what I experienced. And the cramp is actually not caused by the actual bearing itself. It actually was caused by the bearing itself causing certain hormone release, and this hormone actually gives you this cramping sensation that's very similar to when you had a period. All right, so with that being said, I was using an ovulation kit. I did feel the implantation, and then a day or 2 later, I started to have this metallic taste. At week number 3, I mainly had this metallic taste in my mouth. Nothing tastes good. The coffee tastes bad, especially. And I had heightened sense of smell. I could smell things that I could never smell before. I could smell things over 3 doors away. It was insane how much I could smell at that time. It's just, I knew what it feels like because with my first baby, I felt heightened sense of smell too, but this time, not like this time. This time, it's like I have the nose of a dog. It's crazy. The third symptoms of the week 3 is implantation cramping / uterine cramping. It's like when uterus was receiving the embryo, like the little cells, and it's starting to expand and stretching, and the stretching sensation gives you a little bit of that hormone release that causes you to feel a little bit uncomfortable cramps. It's crazy. At 3 weeks, I have all of these symptoms. At 4 weeks, the cramping continues. It's on and off. When it cramps, it usually lasts like 5 to 10 minutes, and it's off for several hours to a day. And at 4 weeks and 3 days on Halloween, I started to feel a little nauseous. I had one very nauseous episode on Halloween, and I feel super tired that day going trick-or-treating with my son. And I feel like my legs feel so much heavier than usual. I feel like my legs are getting swollen a little bit easier. I was just not feeling great that day, feeling nauseous and everything. But the next day I felt better, so I don't know if it's like a pregnancy symptom or it's a pregnancy plus the extra tiredness that day, because we were in traffic for a long time. Even my baby threw up from the car sick. So at 5 weeks, 5 weeks is when the milestone of nausea vomiting started. 5 weeks and 3 days marks the first severe episode of continuous nausea. Like, remember I had a little episode at week 4, but it went away. But starting at week 5, 3 days, I just started to feel super nauseous non-stop. And this time it felt so much worse than my last pregnancy. And here is my first difference between the two pregnancies is that in my first pregnancy, I started to have this metallic taste and nausea at 7 weeks. Versus the second pregnancy, I started this metallic taste at 3 weeks when I first found out I'm pregnant. And I also started to have nausea at 5 weeks and a half, which is very early in the first trimester. And I was feeling so bad. I was feeling nauseous, super tired and fatigued. I felt like my life was miserable. Like, I just couldn't get excited about anything anymore just because how nauseous I was feeling. I just remember the first pregnancy, I was so excited about a baby. This time I just feel like all I can think of is for this nausea to be end. I know, it's such a different feeling, and the nausea was so much worse than the first pregnancy. Another difference between the two pregnancy and this nausea episode is that in my first pregnancy, every time I eat something, my nausea go away. So when I first wake up in the morning, when I have empty stomach, I'll feel very nauseous. I'll immediately eat a yogurt and feel better. And then I'll eat some crackers, I'll feel better. And then I feel nauseous again, I'll eat lunch, and then I'll feel better and feel nauseous again. And then I'll eat some dinner and I'll feel better. So in my first pregnancy, all I do is I feel nauseous, I eat something right away, and I feel better. With the second pregnancy, I felt nauseous, I ate something, I felt worse. It's like I eat, it feels bad. I don't eat, it feels bad. Nothing I do will make it better. Another thing that I used to do when I felt nauseous in my first pregnancy is taking a walk. Breathing fresh air really helps, and this time I did. It helped a little bit, but not by much. Alright, so starting on week 5, another pregnancy symptom that I had, which I also had in my first pregnancy, is nose congestions. So in weeks 5 and 6, I went out to dinner and lunch with some of my friends, and they were asking me if I was sick. I was like, no, it's really just the pregnancy symptoms, but I was like blowing my nose a lot and I sound so congested that made everyone around me thinking that I was sick. But I wasn't sick until a month later. We'll talk about that later. But the nose congestion is actually a very common pregnancy symptoms, not experienced by everyone, but if you are prone to rhinitis, if you're prone to any allergies, or if you're prone to nose congestions in your previous non-pregnant self or pregnant self, you're more prone to have nose congestions and sinus infections during pregnancy. It's actually more common than people think, but it's not experienced by every single one. So I'm just one of the lucky people who always have nose congestions due to allergies, and bam, sinus infection happened. All right, so week 6 was pretty similar to week 5, very nauseous, very tired, and another symptoms that I had adding on to the metallic taste and the other cramps is frequency of urination. So during the day, I would not go to the bathroom a lot, but at night, oh my gosh, I'll go to the bathroom every 3 hours. So I'll go to bed at 11, wake up at 2, then wake up at 5, and then wake up again at 8. Normal wake up. But it's crazy how often I had to go to the bathrooms. That really disrupt my sleep quality. Another symptom starting, I think, at the beginning, but really peaked around week 6 was vivid dreams, and I actually had crazy dreams about the sex of the baby. We'll review that later, and which is a very different one compared to my previous pregnancy. In my first pregnancy, I did have a dream about the sex of the baby, and the baby ended up being the opposite of my dream sex. Versus this time I had a dream about the sex of the baby, and the baby ended up being the same as the sex in my dream, which is Interesting, very interesting to me. But vivid dreams is crazy. I have vivid dreams about snakes because my baby will be born in the year of snake according to Chinese New Year. So there are a lot of things that are like similar to the last pregnancy but very opposite at the same time. So week 6 is when all of the symptoms peaked. My nausea, the cramping, the nose congestions, the vivid dreams, the frequency of urinations is when my life felt like from heaven to hell, because we did intentionally try for this baby. Like we really wanted our baby to be 2 years apart. We did have a miscarriage right before this baby, so I really tried. I bought an ovulation kit. I did everything necessary. Did acupuncture. Both me and my husband did acupuncture to try. So we really wanted this baby. So when I found out I was pregnant, I was super excited, but that excitement just lasted for a week. And then my life just went from heaven to hell. At this point, at the week of 6, I was just couldn't be excited anymore. I just want this to be over. And there was one good thing about it is that knowing that I feel so nauseous, I felt like I don't have to be worried about miscarriage just because how bad I was feeling. If you have experienced miscarriage before, you know that once you had an experience of miscarriage, you always worry whether you're gonna miscarry this one as well. Let alone I experienced 2 miscarriages. But by the time I'm week 6, I'm like, okay, I'm not gonna miscarry this one. I hope there's nothing wrong with the baby by the time it's close to delivery, but I know I'm not gonna miscarry this one in the first trimester just because how nauseous I was feeling. But I just wanted to do a disclaimer, not everyone feels nauseous during pregnancy. If you don't feel nauseous, don't feel like you're gonna have a miscarriage. It's not always that correlation. It's just for some people, they do experience nausea, and that's me. All right, so 7 weeks is the worst week. Well, it's the starting of my worst weeks. Starting from 7 weeks is when I started to really throw up from nausea. Before that, I was just feeling the nauseous, which is kind of interesting because in my first pregnancy, I only threw up once. And in my first pregnancy, I started feeling nauseous at 7 weeks. In my second pregnancy, I started feeling nauseous at 5 weeks. And at 7 weeks, it peaked to throw up. So I would throw up at night most of the times. And sometimes I'll throw up in the morning, and sometimes I'll throw up in the afternoon, but mostly at night. But if I do throw up at night, I'll feel better for the next 24 hours. It's rough. Like, I'm not gonna lie, this is very rough. The fact that I sometimes have to walk around my bathroom just to think whether I need to go gag or not is very debilitating. And sometimes I feel like I'm not gonna throw up, but then I throw up. Sometimes I feel like I'm gonna throw up, but then I end up like suppressing it. It's just every day my life revolves around throwing up. It was just very debilitating. And I've been experiencing extreme fatigue, like sleepy fatigue. Not just tired, like I have to take a nap. If I don't sleep, it's just I cannot function afterwards. And then in my first pregnancy, I didn't have a toddler, but this time is so much harder. So 7 weeks is when the nausea turned into vomiting. So that's 8 weeks, so that's 9 weeks, so that's 10 weeks, so that's 11 weeks, and 12 weeks. So from week 7 to week 12, the main symptom is nausea and vomiting. It's a lot of vomiting. I don't vomit more than 3 times a day, which I know it's a blessing compared to some women. So even though I'm complaining, I didn't pass out from vomiting. I know some women even pass out from dehydration from the vomiting. So it's not that bad if you compare yourself to the worst. So I keep telling myself it could be worse. It could be worse. All right. So another symptoms during this time is sciatica. My sciatica really got worse at 10 weeks. I will be sitting on the couch and trying to get up, and I realize I can't get up, and my left side of from my hips all the way to my legs are completely paralyzed with a extreme shooting pain. I can't move, I can't sit back down, I can't stand back up. My legs were just in this paralyzed sensation where it just shoots the pain. It's so bad. I did experience sciatica as well in my first pregnancy, but it started at 17 weeks. This time my sciatica started at 10 weeks, which is 7 weeks earlier, which is not great. you know, it's your second pregnancy, right? Another pregnancy symptom that I had was sinus infection. I did have sinus infection around 8 weeks, which happened in my first pregnancy as well. Is I had to take antibiotics over sinus infection. And sinus infection is usually caused by nasal congestions, where you're so congested that there's bacteria built up in your nasal things, and then it becomes a bacterial sinus infection. And bacterial sinus infection could be a secondary sinus infection from a viral one or just from allergies. So just be a little bit careful. But when you're pregnant, you cannot take decongestants. I've been taking Zyrtex, but without the Zyrtex D, it's been very rough. Another pregnancy symptoms that I had, which is an exciting one, is at 12 weeks, I felt the baby kick. Yay! In my first pregnancy, I first felt the baby kick around like maybe 18 weeks. Since this is my second live birth or second viable pregnancy, like one day I was eating cold mangoes. Remember, I was just eating cold sugary things that could cause the baby moving a lot. And I was in a very crunched in position on the couch. And I suddenly felt a kick. And I was like, oh my gosh, just the baby flutter. Brandon, give me your hand. And then I put Brandon's hand on my lower abdomen, and he's like, he felt he definitely felt like a little flutter of something kicking through the skin, like against his hands. He was like, oh my god, baby mommy and daddy loves you so much. And it was really, really cute. So this is very different from the first pregnancy, because now I know what the baby flutter feels like. I can identify them. But the drawback is that if you do experience baby flutter kicks at 12 weeks, you won't experience it every single day. You have to be in a certain position where the baby is kicking through the wall of your uterine and towards your belly, where there's not a lot of fat right there, and you have to feel it right away, and it's not a lot of kicks. I only felt it maybe 3 times so far, so you can't really say like, oh, today I didn't feel the baby kick, I'm worried. No, because you don't actually feel it every single day. It's just like you have to be in this position, and the baby has to move a lot, and you have to actually felt it where it's more sensitive that you can tell. So that was exciting. That's definitely one of the difference from the first to the second pregnancy. All right, gender reveal. So we opt in to do the NIPT test. If you don't know what it is, it's a non-invasive genetic testing where they draw your blood and they are looking for different genetic disorder to make sure if you're low risk and high risk. And good news is everything that they were testing for or screening for is low risk for me. It doesn't mean that there's not going to be any genetic testing. It's just for the common ones there's not. And they're also gonna look for the sex chromosomes to check for certain sex genetic disorder. That's when you're gonna find out the sex of the baby. And let's check out.
Grab this thing. Okay, pull it out, boy. What are we having? What are you having? A baby brother or a baby sister? Well, you gotta pull it out. Wow!
What do we have? Ah! Look, it's a girl! Ah! Ta-da! So yes, we are having a girl this time. I'm super excited, and now we already have a boy, so this will be our first girl. So we're gonna have a boy and a girl. So we found out the sex of the baby on New Year's Eve. So we rushed into Party City, we went to Walmart, we're trying to find a confetti, and apparently every single confetti they have is blue. And I was like, dang it! So we had to go for option number 2 is to, you know, use the little cake thing. And honestly, we were not very prepared for the gender review thing, just because I really wanted to help people already. So I didn't want to wait until 3 days later for Amazon to deliver the confetti to, review on the weekend. I really want to review the next day, just because I can't keep the secrets. Yeah, I'm super excited. And if you are a returning viewer from my YouTube family, if you are in my previous videos where I share my Trader Joe's reviews, my Shop With Me videos, you'll know that I was complaining about my nausea and vomiting a lot. And A lot of you guys said, hey, I think it's a girl. And guess what? You were right. It is a girl. And honestly, 99% of people around me guessed it was a girl just because how bad I was feeling. And guess what? They were right. Everyone was right. We are having a girl. And honestly, it's not a surprise to us because we did do an ultrasound at 11 weeks because we couldn't get any appointment before that. And by the time it's 11 weeks, the babies are more formed. And then our ultrasound tech make us not tell anyone because, you know, but she's our friend and she said it looks like a girl. And I came back home and Googled the nub theory. And from one angle, our ultrasound looks just like the textbook when it's a girl. So I kind of already know 99% is going to be a girl before I receive the official report, but I do feel like when I see the official report, it just feels like more real. And I was worried about like, you know, Down syndromes and stuff, but now that we see that it's low risk, I just felt like I just want a healthy baby. I was already looking at the girl clothes before that, but I didn't buy anything because I promised my friend not to buy anything. It's a very, very exciting, and I do want to say that this girl pregnancy felt so much harder than my boy pregnancy. There are some difference. Some differences because it's a first versus second. So the first pregnancy, I felt tired. I did have anemia, dizziness, in addition to fatigue, and the nausea was bad, but I didn't really vomit. This time I had severe nausea and vomiting. I didn't feel dizzy because I'm not anemic. I did really pay attention to the nutrition after I had a baby, was breastfeeding and stuff. I was eating and working out a lot. But I do have one issue is that, you know, I already had a baby. Probably my abdomen muscles are a little bit more or less tight, and I did have a hip issue and a pubic symphysis issue from my delivery from the last baby, so that also contributed to the sciatica. I did have round ligament pain a little bit more severe than last time. So basically anything related to the physical pain, the physical issues, I felt it way earlier the second pregnancy. Another thing that I feel like I'm experiencing is that I cannot engage my core as much in my second pregnancy, even though it's my first trimester. So if you are thinking about getting pregnant, like your first pregnancy will feel so much different than the second one. In the first pregnancy, I was able to do full push-up 4 weeks before I deliver. In the third trimester, I was doing full push-ups. My abs did not separate at all, or maybe it's separated by slightly, that it's not a big deal. This time from very early on, around 7 to 8 weeks, I realized I can't hold a high plank. I can't do full push-ups anymore, and starting from 10 weeks, I feel like my abs are starting to separate, and I feel like my lower abs already separated. Versus the first time I did not separate. So it's very different. Like your physical changes of the body would change a lot. Also in the second pregnancy, I started to show way earlier than my first pregnancy, even though some of it is bloating. But if you do take a picture in the morning, my morning picture of 12 weeks looks like my morning picture of like 16 weeks compared to my first pregnancy. So I'm like almost like 4 weeks ahead. I felt like my bump is like 4 weeks ahead compared to the first one. So it also is because your body changed a lot after having the first baby. Okay, so now let's talk about my pregnancy remedies. What helps me this pregnancy? To be honest with you, nothing helps. The only thing helps is taking naps. And it really helps with my tiredness, fatigue, sleepiness. Take a nap. Another thing that helps a little bit is vitamin B12 and vitamin B6. Vitamin B12 gives me a little bit more energy. Vitamin B6 helps a little bit with nausea. There are also other medicine that's prescribed by my doctor. So one of them is the vitamin B6 and Unisom combined therapy. So you take Unisom at night and you take vitamin B6 3 times a day during the day, and it will suppress your nausea. It will last 24 hours, so you will have to take it every single day. I tried it a little bit. The Unisom makes me sleep for about 9 hours, even though on the box it says it makes you sleep 6 hours. And during the days that I took the Unisom, my baby woke up in the middle of the night, and my husband had to take care of the baby for a whole night and the whole morning. And he was like, why don't you just wake up and help? I was like, I can't really wake up. I wake up a little bit and then I fall back asleep. It's just, the Unisom makes me so tired that for 9 hours straight. if this is your first pregnancy, taking Unisom will help. But if you already have a toddler and your toddler is not a good sleeper like my son, forget it. Like, I can't. I took Unisom for 2 days and I was like, no, I have to be able to wake up earlier just in case the baby needs me. So that happened. So I couldn't really consistently take the Unisom, and my doctor did prescribe Zofran, and she said there were limited studies about Zofran may affect the baby's heart development, but by the time I saw my doctor, I was already 11 weeks. The baby's heart already developed. She said nothing I do will harm the baby's heart development with Zofran. So I did take Zofran twice so far, just because of how bad my vomiting was. The first time it gives me a headache for 2 days, and then it makes me very tired. I fell asleep right after. And then the second time I took a Zofran, it did give me constipation for 2 days. So definitely there's like a side effect to Zofran as well. It's not something you take every day. It's like something you take like when you really can't do it anymore. There are also other people suggested ginger and stuff. Honestly, if you're only feeling nausea, it may help. But if you're vomiting, it really doesn't. If you gag, you just gag. There is like really no cure towards it unless you take some medicine. But the medicine have side effects as well. Getting fresh air really helps. Taking a walk really helps. But there's one difference is I think in my first pregnancy when I work out, I had more energy. This time when I work out, I literally feel like I could just pass out during the workout. I do want to do a disclaimer. It's not like passing out because I was exerting myself. I felt like I could pass out during my workout because of how sleepy I was. I was like doing something, I was like, I could just lay here on the mat and just fall asleep. And I was like, oh my gosh, what am I thinking right now? I think in the past, working out gives me energy, but now working out drains my energy. It drains my energy so much, I felt like I could just fall asleep in the middle of the workout. That's why I also haven't been working out as much. And I did talk to my doctor about it. She said according to the hormones and a lot of patients and some surveys, usually your nausea and vomiting peaks around 11 weeks, usually between 10 to 12 weeks. Some people peaks around 10, some people 11 or 12, but it usually tapers off after 13 weeks. So your 13 weeks should, starting from here, so if you think about your nausea vomiting, it goes like this. So it's starting from maybe 5 weeks or 7 weeks, and it goes all the way up to like maybe 10 weeks, 11 weeks is the worst, and it should taper off after 13 weeks. And it takes some time for you to feel better. So now that I'm almost 14 weeks, usually after 2 weeks after the peak, you should feel a little bit better. So we're looking into maybe by the week 15, I'll feel better. I remember when I was pregnant with my son, after week 15, I started to feel better. My food aversion, after 17 weeks, I felt better. Also, another interesting thing is a food aversion. The first pregnancy, my food aversion is against seafood. Anything seafood, no, no, no. Coffee, no, no, no. This time, not only coffee is no, no, any tea is also no, no. But this time, I can eat seafood like normal, but the smell of rotisserie chicken just drives me to the edge, and that's what my baby likes to eat. So it's been very rough, but recently I've been drinking coffee a little bit, and I feel like my aversion against coffee is slowly gone. So I'm hoping that it will get better soon. I have 6 more months to go in this pregnancy. It feels like this pregnancy is so much longer than the first one just because how much I went through this time compared to the first time. And I do want to say that every pregnancy is very different. Just because you felt okay during your pregnancy doesn't mean that the person next to you felt okay, and that doesn't mean that the next time you will feel okay. I learned that lesson because the first time wasn't that bad. I was like, okay, I could do this again, and this time it felt so much worse. Finally, I want to talk a little bit about this gender to pregnancy symptoms thing. Is it a myth? Is it a true? Most of the gender things online is actually myth, like how you carry the baby, what you crave. It's all false. But there were some studies that, especially survey studies, about how your appetite and your nausea and vomiting related to the likelihood of certain genders or certain sex of the baby. So in my first pregnancy, when I was pregnant with my son, I was hungry, like Every day I wake up, the first thing is to eat, and then I think about the next meal. If I don't eat, I get nauseous. If I eat, my nauseas go away for a little bit. So food is the only cure to my nausea, and it definitely brings a lot of comfort. I feel so hungry all the time. And I read a study that like this type of behavior is linked to likelihood of having a boy, and I was like, damn, I'm having a boy. And then guess what, I do have a boy, and this time I felt so nauseous and I was vomiting. So I looked online to see if there's actual empirical research. So apparently there's a survey study. They surveyed thousands of women about their nausea and episode of vomiting, and then their birth sex of the baby. And apparently having severe nausea and having more episode of vomiting is linked to a higher likelihood of having a girl. And apparently both studies have limitations, obviously, but I think it's safe to say that like within the same individual, while controlling for other factors, I think having a boy is more likely to link to like a higher appetite in the first trimester, and having a girl is linked to higher chance of nausea, higher severity of nausea, at least for me and according to the study as well. But everyone is different. I've heard the opposite things with people that I talk to as well. So yeah, thank you so much for watching. I do think that this nausea, vomiting, once it goes away, I can resume back to normal, start to upload more often. Thank you so much for understanding. Thank you so much for coming back to watch this video. And if you're the first time here, if you're a mom trying to conceive or you're pregnant as well, all the best for you. There are remedies if you are having severe vomiting, but yeah, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in my next one. Thumbs up and subscribe. Bye!